Welcome in everybody to the Philcast. Now today I'm lucky enough to be joined by Lucky Luciano. He is a YouTuber and Twitch streamer. Links to both of those in the description. He's absolutely an amazing dude, so make sure you check him out on both of those. Now, just for context, this conversation took place roughly 2 weeks after the Season 3 reset for Diablo 2 Resurrected and a couple of weeks before the early access open beta for Diablo 4. That's all the information I wanted to give you before jumping into this podcast, so hopefully you enjoy the show. Alrighty, everybody, and I would like you all, round of applause anywhere you're watching, if you're at work with your headphones in, if you're sitting on the toilet watching the podcast, if you're eating macaroni and cheese, round of applause for Lucky Luciani. What's going on, my man? Thank you for joining me here on the Philcast.
Hey, Phil. Oh, great. Thank you so much for having me. I was honored to receive the invite. Big fan, and looking forward to talking some Diablo and whatever else you got going on, whatever you got planned for us. So thanks again.
Yeah. Totally. Tons of Diablo stuff. Obviously, that's what we're kind of most known for. But I like touching on a little bit of other stuff too. So, and real quick, cheers, clank to you, my man. So first off, I did see that you were rocking. We'll go right into some D2R stuff because it's kind of our bread and butter. I seen you were rocking the new assassin with the mosaics, right? What's your first off opinions on that one? It's obviously super powerful from what I've seen.
So yeah, big fan of the mosaic assassin. I was the one that was able to reveal that rune word. So I think just that alone had a little spot in my heart. Mosaic, I kind of feel very partial to it. I'm also a big fan of assassins just in general. Right now, with the balance and where the assassin is, I think a lot of people are leaning towards it being a little bit overpowered. But I think that's from seeing a clip and watching how it's going to absolutely destroy, a player's 8 game. Or even I put up a video where I beat Ubers in under a minute with the mosaic assassin, and everyone's saying that that's very overpowered and what have you. But
so it's your fault everyone thinks it's OP. Okay.
there was some outcries before that, but I didn't help things for sure.
I'm just messing around. Yeah.
But there are a lot of pros to the martial arts assassin. The damage output's kind of silly. You have multi elements, so you really don't have to worry about immunities. But there are also some cons, and some of the cons being that you have to be right up in the face of your enemies if you want to attack them. So it's a pseudo melee build, which we don't have too many of those that are rocking the S tier or the top end of the OP spectrum. But in addition to that, not only do they have to be really up and close and personal and very vulnerable as a result of that, but they also have the whole charging mechanic, which, when you're watching a highlight reel of a mosaic assassin, they've got all their charges built up. All you see is them unleashing. You don't see what happens if they go 15 seconds without hitting a monster. You don't see the lead up, to that point and trying to get all your charges up and maintaining them. And so there are drawbacks to the class which are being ignored, but we can't deny the power that we are seeing with the mosaic assassin. And I would say the complaints that are warranted are I think it fills up the screen a little too much with a lot of animations, and some people aren't asking for that, and there's no way to turn off these animations in game, and you might just be in a relaxing bail run at the end of the day. You just work the shift and you're trying to chill and you don't want to stress out your eyes, and then a mosaic assassin shows up, fills your screen, your monitors are blowing up. It's like a flashbang, and no, I can understand why that could get on some people's nerves, and maybe eventually we're able to tune that down. But that's kind of where I stand on it. What about you? How are you feeling?
If to be honest, with all the changes in D2R, I've kind of, between talking to people like yourself on the Philcast and people while I'm streaming, different comments and stuff, I've really kind of softened up to different changes in D2R. I was known as anti-change guy. I was negative for everything, but it was kind of partially because I was just like, at the time when the new stuff was happening, I was still like in love with playing the game. I still was holy grailing, looking for this item, looking for that item, and it was like, don't change it yet. I'm not ready for that stuff. Like I'm not bored with the game yet. So I have really kind of softened up to a lot of the change stuff though, when I stop and think has it really hurt the game or ruined the game? Has it made it worse for me after playing it? So when it comes strictly to the mosaic, I'm not too uh I don't think it's too powerful or whatever. I might think it's maybe a little too powerful for the runes that it uses at a Mal and a Gull. Like if it was just throwing out there a Zod and a Gull or something super rare like that, even though it's not quote unquote trade super valuable on Battle.net,
Sure.
at least then it's like something super rare, and getting two of them would be kind of crazy. Like to find two Zods is astronomically crazy. I do think that something with how it looks visually needs to be changed, because I feel bad that I had to do this, but I literally, when I was doing runs, I had to be, one time I was, and sorry, whoever, I forget who it was now, but I'm like, you have to leave. Like, I can't stop squinting every
Yeah.
time you flash. And the build, it works really good. He's going around crushing everything, but I just, literally can't open my eyes. Like, I got to look like Cooley here while I'm streaming. It was just too much. Not to mention, I just got a brand new graphics card. I didn't get the 4090. Unfortunately, I'm not Moneybags Phil over here. I had to get a 4070 Ti. And we were out at the River of Flames, which already is kind of a struggle. I started like dropping frames with a 4070 when he was going crazy. Not to
Yeah.
mention the squint and stuff. So I can't imagine somebody who's maybe on a 3060 or something like that, and someone like that comes into the game and they got to leave. It's a
Yeah.
bad look, I guess you could say. And I don't really necessarily know if they keep it in the game, what they would do if they articulate to everybody you're only going to see 1 out of 4 animations, but they are all there, or something like that. So you're getting the full damage, but you're only seeing every 4th or something. The actual power of Mosaic, I think it's fine, with it having to get right up in people's faces, like you had mentioned. It looks like, even though it wrecks so much, watching you play it and watching some other people, Llama, I haven't played it a ton. I just tried it out real quick. It looks like the survivability maybe isn't completely godly survivability, because I see you guys kind of paying attention, giving it a full rejuve here and there while you're doing stuff. It's not like Smiter with Exile, and you're just like it's not quite that level of when you're going after the Ubers and stuff. So I think the power is kind of fine for having to get right up in people's faces like that.
So one thing, again, that has been mentioned when it comes to Mosaic and just the martial arts assassin in general, and I think it's a really fair point. And even though I love the Mosaic rune word, but I do think that the martial arts style of play is very, very cool. It's very fun, and it can be designed and catered around whatever you want to farm at any given point in time. And the fact that the entire martial arts skill tree essentially is locked behind getting your Mosaic claws online, not 1, but probably 2, is a little bit unfortunate, because as I've been playing it more, and I come from a background of more so like modded Diablo. So I've played around with, new versions of martial arts and every which way you could cut it. And I've always been a big fan of the assassin and martial arts in general. I would love to be able to do a whole playthrough as martial arts and, get through the game. And right now they're pretty powerful if you go through normal, but if you try to play martial arts Nightmare in Hell, it's a no-go. You're gonna have a tough time. It just makes so much more sense to run traps. So if we were able to unlock some of the new quality of life that we get in the martial arts skill tree through Mosaic earlier on in the assassin, whether you tie it to a skill like claw mastery or the individual martial arts skills themselves, I think that could be a really cool idea and a home run. And then I'd say go for it. Up the rune cost to Zod, because it's not so build defining now that you need to have the Mosaic Claw in order to unlock this potential. And maybe it's, the Mosaic Claw still keeps one thing that keeps it special, but maybe allow the the maintaining of charges to be in your in your skill tree, or or opposite, or just refreshing the charge or something like that. Just
Okay, so if
it's
you,
so fun. I'd like to see it used more than just with the
yeah, I
mosaics.
understand you for sure. I was just kind of a couple questions about that, just so I understand. So you would want, instead of the 50% charges, not necessarily 50%, not 50% going straight to the skill tree, but like 5%, 10%, 15% based upon your skill level. I'm just throwing numbers out there, but
Mhm.
onto Claw Master or something. What would be, um, if they did take that 50% to not consume charges off a mosaic, would it still be a good claw to use? I personally, just for reference, I'm not much of an assassin expert, to say the least. So I'm kind of asking out of, not having the knowledge for sure.
Sure. Well, I don't. I mean, like I said, I think you keep some aspect of it on because there's really two aspects to the mosaic claw, and one is more of a hidden ability, and one is the one that it states outright, which is that you have a 50% chance not to consume a charge. But when you don't consume the charge, it also refreshes all of your charges. I think having I think having one or two of those abilities, maybe maybe it just refreshes your charges so that you don't have to keep them up. Maybe you don't you don't expend. You're expending, but you don't keep it up all the time, or maybe it caps it so that you can only get to 25%, right? So you can't have 100% uptime with your mosaic clause, which you do now. I mean, nobody's running one mosaic for 50% chance. Say you can get up to 50% just through your claw mastery, and then each mosaic claw is 25%. So now you can only get to 100% if you still have the mosaic claws on, because they're the only weapon in the game that's going to get you to 100%. But you could get to 25, 50% on your own just through your skill tree. Combined, you still get to the 100 at the end of the day. But now if you're playing through as martial arts, you get a little bit of a boost along the way, because really it's completely unviable until you get the mosaics online. So
Yeah. All right.
something
Yeah.
like
I
that.
kind of like that idea. It kind of reminds me of, we'll say, Pierce for the Amazon, right? Yeah. You put some points into it, then you throw on the razor tail and you get up to 100, or however else you want it. That's
Yeah,
the most
exactly.
common way, in that, throw on the razor tail to get it over 100. So
Yeah.
that's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. So, you got any opinions on any of the other rune words? Because in my experience here, obviously the Druid one, I haven't really seen anyone use, and that's another one I haven't touched since dabbling with it. Was it PTR or maybe right after the patch launched? Um, the helmet ones, for just tossing my opinion out right quick before we get yours. Actually, the rune word cure, I've actually been using a lot on my energy shield Nova Sorceress. Poison resistance, helping that out, and then the cleansing aura, the obvious reasons there. Bulwark was a little underwhelming in my opinion, throwing it on the Act 2 Mercenary, but it's so cheap. They're so cheap, so you got to kind of weigh them against the cost. I used it until I got my Talos Mask type of thing. So, what are
Mhm.
your opinions on kind of the other rune words that, if you've dabbled around with them at all?
So there's nothing else out there that really excites me too much. Initially when I saw Metamorphosis, the Druid helm, I thought it was an interesting idea, but maybe it was just missing one piece that really made it, meta shifting for the Fury Druid. I like where the devs' heads are at with all of these rune words, because they know what needs to be buffed. At the end of the day, it does show that the devs know what areas are lacking, but maybe it just wasn't the right implementation. When we got the first feedback from Metamorphosis, it was a lot of, oh, this is going to be used as pre-buff maybe. But come on, nobody wants to go through the work of
4.5 minutes
pre-buffing
of
and
pre-buffing.
switching around and shape shifting to one form, the other. Then you got to hit something. Then
Yeah,
you got to
and then
shift
and
back.
then
Then you
plus
take it all
it
off.
turned out that I think they thought of that and they didn't want people doing it. I don't know if you dabbled with it at all, but you couldn't use any other skills that weren't Fury or whatever the skills you needed for transformation. Like you couldn't. I didn't at first. I thought it was a glitch because I went out there and fought, and I was like, "Oh, my battle orders ran out," and I swap over to CTA. I'm like, I can't use it, which is mega downside there, right?
Yeah, it's got a lot of cool mods on it, but people aren't playing, shapeshifters, unfortunately, and there may be a good niche for it in Ubers or something, but I don't really see it as a meta shifter. I don't think much is going to change. You see how fast, Mosaic Assassin can take down Ubers. I don't really see, the shapeshifter coming out ahead in that area. But it just there are too many weaknesses still to the shapeshift druid that the new helm doesn't really address, like mobility and as well as AOE damage if they're trying to farm effectively. It's just a little. It just misses the mark, I think, at the end of the day, which is funny because they're called Mark of the Wolf and Mark of the Bear. But in the other rune words, we got Hustle. So Hustle is kind of cool.
Ooh,
I
forgot about
think,
that one, actually.
Yeah, the armor. Yeah, I think after the changes, I think I like them a lot more. The armor seems really cool. I love, access as well to fanaticism on the weapon at an early level. That where previously we didn't really have that option. Even at level 1, if you're using it yourself, that's a big boost. But we're talking about mid tier rune words at the end of the day. I don't think there's going to be too much changed in the end game in the meta with the addition of the hustle and weapon and armor. I think maybe on a playthrough. So Phil, you're a single player guy. Sometimes you do more than most, I would say. In terms of like grails and stuff. And I thought that hustle actually has it has its place in more of a single player playthrough or very early game. Access to a little bit of a stronger weapon or maybe fanaticism for your mercenary. That you could benefit from if you're playing a melee build. So I think there's a little bit of a buff there, but otherwise, I think there are just too many better options when we're talking about end game that hustle doesn't really.
Yeah, I haven't dabbled around.
That was the intention.
I haven't dabbled around too much with single player since this ladder, so I haven't. And the ones with hustle, I made a hustle real quick, threw it on. Some people wanted ask me about it or whatever. I threw it on my mercenary. And it was all right, but at the time I already had treachery, and I feel like losing that fade proc was very detrimental to my boy Emilio disappearing on me a lot. So
you got to take care of Emilio, and treachery is already so affordable. At the end of the day, it's not gonna, it's not that much. You're not saving much making a hustle over a treachery. I mean, you might as well just save up for the lem, and get that on. It's such a good mercenary.
Yeah,
armor.
and I wasn't sure that I haven't went and looked at what exactly it comes out to, but that level 1 fanaticism, for using it for like your character, not 100% sure, but I was thinking about, would it go over to helping the damage and attack speed and stuff for like summons, the way that fanaticism is on beast, but it's like a much higher one, right? But I don't know if level 1 would really do a whole lot. I don't know if that does it add 30% damage and 15% attack. I don't even know what the numbers are offhand. I looked them up one time, but now, of course, I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, don't quote me on this, and I'm sure everyone will, be quick to correct us. But I think it was around in the 20 to 30% for attack speed, and then maybe ED was 50 to 70 around that range.
That's wrong. You're going to get
canceled.
So
and then that's going to be offhand ED. And the problem with a level 1 aura is the range isn't really too far. And again, I'm quoting numbers off the top of my head, but maybe you get 10 yards on a level 1 aura, which is half your screen, I think, based on wherever you're standing or the mercenary is standing. So you don't have a ton of range on it, but it's better than we had before. Right. And if we're talking about an early, summon buff, melee buff, something along those lines. And then to tie into some of the other ones, I think Bulwark and some of the other helms are also great early options. Like I made a Bulwark this season for my mercenary, but you mentioned once you get a Tal's Mask, that kind of went away. But it's a little harder if you're doing a single player, run through or even a speed run. Something like runes are a lot easier to force than a Tal's Mask or
on a speed run for sure or something.
Speed run or single player. You're gonna have access to runes a lot easier. And Diablo doesn't really have a lot of areas. Like if you see a lot of modern day ARPGs, at least Diablo 2. There aren't many areas that you can just spot farm for a specific thing in Diablo 2. Like, yeah, if you want uniques, you go to a boss, but you don't know what unique's going to drop. It's not like if you farm Mephisto, you have a better chance of getting, or if it is, it's minuscule, a better chance of getting a Viper Magi than Andariel. Like, it's not that much different of a chance.
Yeah.
So the fact that you can target farm runes and make these items that are guarantees, I think, it gives you something to work towards. It's something that you can guarantee more than just a random drop off a mob boss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because with those uniques, yeah, there are definitely spots where it's like better to find it, but better to find it is like 1 in 1,000 runs instead, and better would be like 1 in 800. But that 1 in 800 could be 2,500 runs if you just don't get lucky. You know what I mean? So yeah, I know exactly what you mean there. It's not like running the Countess and you're going to get runes. It's like, is it going to be, am I going to get it quick from the Countess on the first or third run, or is it going to be the 15th run that I get that Tal run or something? Yeah.
Right.
So it's
anything. Yeah. So just like any mid rune word, you have that ability to sort of target farm for it, which makes it more available, which then, if you're comparing a Bulwark to Vampire Gaze, any of the other mercenary helms that are out there, it's an option. It's you could target farm for it. It's pretty much a guarantee, but it's replaceable. At the end of the day, like you mentioned, I think most of the helms are. I like the is it Hearth, the access to early CBF, the cold one.
Yeah, I forget which one that is too, but yeah.
Yeah, you get access to you get a ton of cold absorb, cold res, and you get CBF. I think there aren't enough options for CBF at low levels. There are maybe 2 or 3 options, so this adds another option that you might be able to luck out and get. And who does CBF benefit? It benefits melee. Anything that's attack speed based. A caster doesn't care whether they're frozen or not because of the way Diablo 2 works. They still get all their breakpoints. It's no problem. But if you're a melee character and you don't have CBF, first cold thing that comes up and touches you, it's a whole different story than if you're a caster. So I like another early access to CBF. Your idea with Cure on the energy shield sources is great. I think that's a great application of that one that I may not have even thought of when I first saw it. They're options. Rune words. I think I have a little bit of an issue with rune words having to be the best in slot item for for all the builds and all the metas. I really wish we saw better uniques or even a reworking of uniques, an introduction of some unique items that maybe we don't we that aren't used right now. So there are a ton of items that don't have a unique variation of them, and I don't think that we're so caught up on rune words because rune words have always been the most power ever since they were introduced. Everyone forgot about the grandfather, and everyone was about Breath of the Dying. Everyone wants the Breath of the Dying.
When the Wind Force was like $1,500 on eBay.
What happened to Wind Force and grandfather? I mean, how do you feel? We're getting away from rune words, but I think I hit on all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love to hear your opinion. Because you come from a little bit of a different background to me. Like I played a lot of modded Diablo where we had updated uniques. Like they try to stay true to the nature of what the intention of the unique was. But I think you have such a great system there with the rarities of some of the uniques, like the TC87 items. But it just feels bad when you get them sometimes. And I'd love to drop materials might and go crazy because I know I can throw it on and I'm going to be immediately stronger. But I'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah, I played a little bit of modded stuff, but it was pretty much because just for slight background, I kind of started my channel. It was probably 6 or 8 months before Project Diablo 2 came out, or maybe it was a year. So I started doing Project Diablo 2, and I did the first season. I played all the way through the first season. It was fun. I had a great time. And you played that one, right? I'm assuming.
I did. Yeah, that's actually how I started streaming. Was Project Diablo 2.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I just started a little bit before that, and then I actually switched completely to playing just that for the first few seasons. So the first season I did. I don't remember which characters I did, but I tried a couple of them, and then it was like every character had gotten changed, and I wanted to go. Oh, I want to try this assassin build that everyone's doing. It seems really cool. Combustion Sorceress was cool. This was cool. That was cool. So I played one character. I played another character. I played another one. Then it reset and they changed everything. They changed everything. And I was like, well, guess I'm not trying that character. Guess I'm not trying this character. So then I was like, all right, similar situations. I play one, I play another. Next season comes, they change everything again. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is this really how it's going to go? And it didn't help that I'm on single player trying to play my single player Sweet Phil way. And all your items get nuked and you can't, like, because when they apparently, this is what I heard from somebody, when they changed the enhanced damage on items, it just bricks everything. And so it was like pretty devastating, kind of.
Yeah,
But
right. So that was well, we don't have to go into it, but yeah, when it was, I'm friendly with the dev and the mods there, and yeah, they wanted to change the high, and this was to address melee stuff, but they wanted to change the high end on ED. Right now, there's actually an artificial cap in Diablo 2 LOD and D2R. You'll see if you get a really high ED item and throw a bunch more ED, it actually caps at a certain level. So in order to remove that cap, they had to change the way, they had to basically change the whole ED mod, and then anything that had the old mod of ED, because you can't retroactively change items, it ended up bricking them. But that's neither here nor there. And I feel so bad for the single player guys that lost their items.
So bad for me.
I because I was a big, honestly, I really liked Project Diablo 2, and it upsets me that something like a change like that could cause someone to distress, and then they would stop playing, because I think it was and still is a great game. But yeah, the changes every season, it's tough, because you've got to pay attention to every change. You have to do a lot of testing, and if you don't want to go through all that effort, then it's almost like you're playing a brand new game every season, which not everyone wants necessarily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the one.
So I get that.
And it wasn't even like the losing items at, like, for the single player losing items every season or whatever, but that was kind of like what a piece of the puzzle why I kind of decided to stop playing, because when you play ladder anyways, you're resetting anyway, so I could get over not having the stuff carry over. But it was just like, oh, I want to try this, I want to try that, oh, can't try any of that stuff because they took it away. And then the next season, the same thing. And then all of a sudden they're adding in all, like, oh, I didn't even get this item or that item or that item. I couldn't do this yet. And next season they're like, oh, we're adding all this more stuff. And I'm like, I thought I played quite a bit. I don't know. I didn't have time to keep up with everything that they were doing. So that was kind of what kind of turned me off from it, was the rate of change of adding this in, changing this skill, nerfing this skill, bumping this skill. Oh, reverse it again. Oh, change this item, add more items in, so.
Sure. So what did you think overall of the changes for this season then of D2R? How did you feel?
For the changes this season, I guess it turned out fine. With the only thing that I think, like I said earlier, was a problem is the graphics of the martial art assassin. That's probably the only thing.
How about the nerf to cold mastery?
The nerf to cold mastery, kind of like almost like resetting cold mastery. I feel like it should have been that way the whole time. That's probably the most happy change that I've, because still right now Blizzard Sorceress is one of the top 5 most OP characters in the, like, not overpowered, but the top 5 most powerful characters in my opinion. With obviously Sorceress have teleport, it still wrecks just as good as it did before the Sunder Charms, but now it has Sunder Charms and you can bring their immunities down. So it's not like it essentially got the buff that I feel like it should have gotten before it did last season, where you could just be, you throw on random FCR and go out and everything has minus 100 cold res instantly.
Right. And it's not like cold sorks were ever breaking immunities beforehand, where, before Sunders were introduced, you'd go and break an immunity and then get your full effect of cold mastery. Really, we saw cold sorks, they wouldn't even use an infinity because the native cold res of monsters was so high you'd never break it anyway. So it's, they at the end of the day, they're still buffed from 2.4. They're just not as good as they were in 2.5, which was insane.
Yeah, that one
so strong.
That one did not make me unhappy at all. So,
would you like to see more changes? So PD2 was too many changes. D2R's a few changes, some good, some bad. But do you think which side would you lean more towards, or is there a middle ground?
I would lean on because of, like I said before, how I'm kind of happy with playing the game the way it is. I would kind of lean towards not having more changes. Well, I mean, there's a couple reasons that kind of clump into this one particular reason, but I do kind of enjoy the fact of the community being so excited. It's not like, uh, for resets, if there wasn't changes and stuff, people just don't have the same excitement. They don't have the enthusiasm to play and stuff like that. And it's kind of nice seeing other, more people coming back and playing, to be perfectly honest. So that's it. That's one of the main things why I think that I kind of, maybe it's been helping me warm up to the changes, just seeing how much everybody else likes them, enjoys them. And another thing is I did some like polls and stuff on my channel. Come to find out, I'm in the vast minority when I would say that I didn't want changes. It's like a 90-10 issue. Like everybody wants changes. And then there was little old anti-change guy, Sweet Phil. I'm kind of saying that in a joking manner,
but you're coming around. That's great, though.
But yeah, I am coming around. Y'all better be happy. Yeah, your expert, like opinions and your points have brought me around to liking the change a little bit more. But if things didn't change, I could probably play Diablo 2 for years and years and years and not get bored of it. A lot of other people have been playing for. Dobrunsky mentioned this when I had talked to him. He likes more of the meta. Changing, altering stuff, because he would I wouldn't say, I can't remember exactly the way he worded it, but he would just like the meta changing stuff because he would like the game to change. He was kind of, forget the way he worded it, not bored of the game, but the way things had been, he'd been playing it for so long. I was like kind of a little bit behind where he was on his with my single player grail and stuff like that. So with me, I feel like I got years and years that I could grind out Diablo 2 without getting bored of it, for sure.
Yeah.
Do you
keeps it interesting, keeps it new.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I know you said you just started streaming for Project Diablo 2. You've been playing for like years and years and years, though, I'm assuming, right?
Been playing since the game came out. I played Diablo 1 before Diablo 2. Yeah. It's funny. People come in and they ask me if I was even alive when Diablo came out. But yeah, I've been playing since.
You do look a little young. I don't want to,
baby face. I'm 31 years old. So
oh, you are a little baby. Look at this guy over here. I'm
come on, all right, give me a break.
5 years older than you right here.
I think we both fit the average demographic when we're talking about Diablo. Yeah. So,
well, I can't if I don't make fun of you for being young, then I'm just old. So then it's like, what if I got to say something?
No, we're both young and beautiful. That's all good. Yeah, I mean, I've been playing on and off for 20 plus years. I think I've probably never gone more than a year without picking the game up. As a tradition, I would do a playthrough with one of my best friends and that I've known since kindergarten and my brother. We would just go through and play completely unoptimized and just play through the game just to have fun, or I'd do a ladder reset here and there, and it's just one of those games that sticks with you. I don't have to tell you guys that. We're all here because we've been playing the game for forever.
I actually did take a little bit of a break, actually, but it was kind of other games kind of stole the show for me at one point, because I played for a few years back in the day, and there was a few years would go by and I'd jump back on, but it was more than a year or two at times, because I was big into, especially when Halo came out, and then lugging around a giant CRT TV in the back of my truck to people's houses and system linking, and then Halo 2, the Call of Duties, Final Fantasies, Elder Scrolls, all the Fallout games. There was so many that I bet you there was probably at least like 5 or 6 years where I didn't touch Diablo 2 probably. Then I had another friend that played a lot when we were younger, and then he would message me, "Hey, ladder reset this weekend. You want to go for it?" I'm like, "I guess. I haven't played it in forever," but but yeah, I definitely had a larger break, and then even after that time that I'm thinking of, the 5 or 6 years, there was probably a few more years, and then I can't remember what game I had played last, but then I was like, man, I do not want to spend $70 for a new game right now, and I'm bored. So maybe I'll try playing Diablo 2 again. So that's what I went ahead and did, and that was like pretty much when I started my channel. So
Oh wow.
and that was 3 years ago now, or 3.5 years ago. So there was kind of quite a gap, but I really, obviously I got into it huge, like
Yeah,
when I
no,
when
for
I came
sure.
back, I just like, because I was at the type of job I had. I don't know necessarily what you do, but I worked in a factory. They're incredibly boring jobs. Headphones in, listening to people's streams and listening to, I would
Yeah.
Llama and Dobrunsky and people who were, streaming before I did, Ryu and
Yeah.
Indrek, I think is Indrek.
Yep.
So no, the
Yeah, Hendrik,
speedrunners
yeah.
I'd
Speedrunner. Yeah.
watch, and I thought I could do that, but I never really got into it. Those speed runs, I know you do a lot of that and are
Yeah,
pretty good
it's
at
one
it.
of the things.
They take so long. I don't know how you can have that. Like I got a 6-year-old now. Just that's another reason why I started playing video games all the time. I couldn't go to the bar anymore. So it's like, well, I can sit here and play
I'll do
video
it.
games and then pause it and then change a diaper and come back again.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, but yeah, listening to them at work and picking up tips here, tips there, and listening to YouTube videos and stuff like that. That's kind of what got me back into it, like huge. So, and it
That's
inspired
really
me
cool.
obviously to kind of do this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so you came on the scene a little bit earlier than me, probably maybe by a couple months or a year. So I think when I first came across you, you seemed well established. So you got me fooled. I would have thought you've been doing this for as long as the other guys. I mean, you're doing a great job. You
Appreciate
mentioned a
it.
lot of FPS games. So it sounds like that's maybe one of the other genres you like. Have you ever tried a looter shooter like a Borderlands or a type of game? Because that kind of could fuse together two genres that you seem to like.
Yeah, I actually have not, but people have tried to talk me into trying that or whatever, or have suggested like that it's got some of the same, like you said, looter shooter, like drops and stuff, kind of got that same aspect, RPG type of thing. But yeah, shooter, I actually haven't, but I've wanted to, but with having the channel and stuff, I've felt it hard to find time to, do a lot of other things, yeah.
I really have time for Diablo, let alone playing other games.
Right. I'm rocking the Philcast. We've got the regular Diablo channel. We got the Sweet Phil Media channel. Check out links in the description for those things. But true professional. Gotta plug. But yeah, I kind of would like to. And then with D4 coming up here pretty soon, I'm sure I'm not going to have any more time. So I feel like over the next few months here. Oh man, speaking of Diablo 4, one thing so disappointing about that game. You're going to agree with me, maybe. Why would they put the open beta early open access starting on St. Patrick's Day? Oh my God.
I think that was short-sighted. What are they doing?
The most important.
Can we start a
holiday of the
petition?
year.
Like what the heck?
Yeah, I didn't realize it till I'm just not good with dates or something, I guess, or I'm not the scheduler in the house. But I talked to the wife and I'm like, oh yeah, the 17th, I'm gonna need that day, and then the next few days, like this is gonna be important. Like I told her what it was, and she's like, oh, not going to the St. Patrick's Day pub crawl stuff on. I'm like, what? Oh, 7. Oh no, devastating.
Oh no.
So
wait, did you have to cancel your plans?
Well, I'm not sure. Not yet. Maybe they're gonna push it back after they realize their mistake. Blizzard.
Well, if we get the petition going, maybe there'll be a link.
Yeah, we'll have to set that up. Look in the description. If we got it set up, there'll be a link.
If we get it up, if we get it up. Oh no, yeah, the dates. I don't know. Sometimes the dates seem sort of planned. Sometimes it doesn't seem like much thought is put into them. Like if you look at the release date for Diablo 2 Resurrected, I mean, we've got the 6/6/23. But what does that end up being? It's like a Thursday or something. And then but if you look at the early access, or it's like a Tuesday. And then if you look at the early access 4 days before that, it's a Friday, or you get the whole weekend. So the 6th is actually a Tuesday when the official release date is.
Gotcha.
But then you have the early access, which is supposed to be 4 days prior to that, I guess, which would give it to you on a Friday right before the weekend. What do you think people are gonna want to?
I feel like, well, the one thing I don't know if they necessarily plan this, I would assume they would, but I know they started doing this with movies. Like movies used to launch on Fridays and then they push them back to Thursdays. And then you find out that like, oh, every modern movie has a bigger opening weekend than older movies used to. Well, yeah, that's because now they have 3 extra days that they add in. Because if they start on Thursday, then they have the viewership from Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It makes their movie sound like it's better. They can advertise it as having more viewership than blah, blah, blah than ET on the first weekend because they had 2 extra days or whatever. So I think,
Good point.
speculation here, I'm not a video game insider, but I think they do the same thing. So I don't know if it's legal to push it back all the way to Tuesday. Then they could say like, oh, the first opening weekend, but really they're talking Tuesday to the next Sunday.
Right.
So then it sounds just crazy. We had 750 million people log in 1 weekend. It's like 2 days.
That's
You had that many,
point.
but no, it's like 5
Or they call
days.
they call it the first week, but then they also include the numbers from the early access. So you get 2 weekends out of it.
There you
Maybe
go.
that's it.
Yeah, who knows? But I know
That's
they
a good
did that
point.
with movies, and I think they kind of do that with video games too. Why stuff never launches like Friday night? It's always like Thursday or something.
Yeah, or maybe it's just the 6-6-2-3 thing.
That is convenient as well. I bet you it's probably both.
Yeah.
So, but
You excited for D4 then? Have you watched much information on it? And
I've watched some stuff, and it's hard to. I don't know. I'm like D3 might have spoiled me for like getting too excited about stuff because I was mega excited about Diablo 3, pre-ordered, went to the store, went to Best Buy and got it, came home, put it in my laptop, and played for like a minute and a half. Servers crash. They don't work for days and days and days. There's no offline single player, just like obviously D4 is not going to have any offline single player. So if they mess up the servers, I paid $70 for, to download some random files onto my computer, right? So I'm optimistic just because they've been doing stuff and saying things kind of like going out of the way to be like, whoa, guys, this is not exactly like Diablo 3. Like they keep, like just saying things kind of like that. It's going to be dark. It's going to be gritty. It's not going to be high fantasy and childish. It's not, and then I feel like they kind of threw us a bone too with having like uniques in it too, which are supposed to be like the best chase items. They said you'd find 2 or 3 if you played a normal video gamer amount, I guess, or however they worded it, so that sounded pretty good too. Some of the MMO aspects of it, I'm probably not going to like, but with some of the monetary type of things that they have to do nowadays to try to get people like, I feel like a lot of the MMO aspects will get a lot of more people playing longer, which will make them make more money, which they have to do for their shareholders and this and that. There's some things that I don't want to give them a pass on it, but it's like that's just how the world works. So I don't know how up in arms I should really get about it, right? So I'm kind of we'll put it on the cautiously optimistic. I don't think it's going to be better than Diablo 2, and I don't think it's going to be like I'm never going to touch Diablo 2 again because this game's going to be so good. Because like Diablo 2 Resurrected, I've tried to go back and play regular Diablo 2. It's kind of tough because the graphics are so much better, and not necessarily any of the changes but it was such leaps and bounds better. But even with Diablo 4 looking so amazing, I don't feel it'll ever be good enough to keep me away from playing D2R ever again. So where do you kind of sit on Diablo 4?
So I have had the opportunity to play it. So I was in the media beta, and we were able to play through. We had access to like 3 classes, and it's different. It's not Diablo 2, but it's also not Diablo 3. And
That's always a good point.
Blizzard likes to remind us of it. We mentioned some of the issues with Diablo 3 at launch. Some things don't change in 10 years because I actually picked it back up for this latest season, and we were having connection issues. All I can say is go big, Blizzard. If you're watching, go big on the servers, and don't let that happen to us for Diablo 4, because that's the last thing you want on an opening weekend for a game we're all so excited about. But in terms of the play style, it's a beautiful game. It looks. I think Diablo 2 Resurrected is the most beautiful game that ARPG that exists currently. But Diablo 4 seems like even better. I love the open world aspect of it. I just think there's something so cool about not having to go through load screens like at all, unless you're, fast traveling from one area to the next. I like being able to see, an area point and knowing I can actually get there and I can walk there, and I might be able to see something from afar on the top of a cliff. And I know that there's a quest down there and I can venture to it. It's a little bit more engrossing of a game in that regard. The audio even it's much better than Diablo 3, and it reminds me a lot of Diablo 2, the atmosphere that the game creates. Now, whether the itemization and the decisions that they made with trading, factor in, I don't think I'm on board 100% with the direction that they've gone, but that remains to be seen, because the version that I played was not final and they're still working through it. I haven't seen the last version. I don't think anyone has. Maybe they're still even working on it, on where they're going to end up with itemization and trading and everything like that, and whether it's going to feel like a Diablo 2 game because you have that community that you can trade with and interact with, or if it's going to feel like Diablo 3, which someone proved me wrong, but Diablo 3 feels like a single player game to me. I mean, people are playing through, they might play through together to start off, but then you're just grinding your own, solo greater rifts. Like, that's the leaderboard in Diablo 3. That's what everyone's trying to beat. It's like, who can do the higher thing solo and individually. You can't even use your mercenary that you would use solo in a group. So you're almost, if you decide to play with a group, you end up bricking your whole build. It's this game that's designed around people playing together but separately, or almost Diablo 3. Whereas Diablo 2, you feel the lifeblood of the community in Diablo 2 through every trade that you make, through every bail game that you guys join up to get, that we join together and we join up together to defeat this foe. And I actually think some of the MMO elements of Diablo 4 will bring back that sense of community that we might have in Diablo 2, where we're, kind of grouping up together. And it's kind of almost always better to play together because you have characters that can buff each other. You get more experience, you get more items. Like, there is a huge benefit of playing together in Diablo 2. I don't see that benefit in Diablo 3, but I think it comes back in Diablo 4. And I'm big on the community. Like, we're always doing community events. We're trying to get together, whether it's split magic finding games or, we're trying to host declone events for everyone in the community. Like, the Diablo community has matured so much since I started playing, and we're all just like a great group of men and women that get together and enjoy this game that we've loved for forever. So I think if we have those community elements back in Diablo 4, I think it'll be a hit. If we end up just all playing solo, and that ends up being the best way to play, I think it'll be a swing and a miss at the end of the day. But that's kind of where I stand on it, without getting too in depth into the mechanics of Diablo 4, which I don't feel too qualified to talk about.
Right, you're ready. I got you. Hopefully, I kind of forgot to mention or whatever. Yeah, the whole trading thing. I would say not happy. I wish that they did allow open trading, and I understand they don't want to have the real world money transaction type of stuff, and I think that's most of the reason why they're not allowing it. But I feel like you can't. I mean, you can, because they probably are going to leave it to restricted trading, but you shouldn't, anyways, have the bad apples or the people not doing things the incorrect way or what they shouldn't be doing hinder the people who are doing things the right way and want to enjoy the whole community and helping each other out, trading items and this and that. Whether it's either with real money trading, buying items, or whether it's like botting and stuff. They think people are going to bot items and then sell them for real money. Like, you shouldn't restrict and make the game worse so that you keep people from somebody making $5 on some code in a game that they shouldn't be, So that's kind of where I fall in the trading. I really, really wish they would. And for the whole, how you mentioned, I'm not well versed in the Diablo 3. I played it for a month and then I just gave up, when I was hitting the unicorn farm for a minute, and I was like, oh boy. But if Diablo 4 does end up being a game where you end up just playing solo online, but you, I don't know, I feel like if you play a game online, you kind of got to have it play together, you know, like you said in Diablo 2, it's a huge benefit. And I get comments like this in the on my videos sometimes where it'll be, man, you know, I'm out there playing by myself all the time. It's crazy. I can't find the stuff that you guys can. I'm like, well, you gotta get out there and play with people. And like that's like, online incentivizes that with the extra rune drops, the more items, bases, and all this stuff. Way more experience. Got to get out there, and it's if you're gonna play online, it's a lot funner to play with people. There are times get out and farm the countess, stuff like that. But if Diablo 4 has it, you're just solely only playing by yourself because you can't trade. There's no sense in playing with people. I feel like that will be kind of a problem for it if that's the case.
And I don't think that that's the direction they've taken it. I think that's where Diablo 3 is, and I think that Diablo 4 is trying to do the things to address it. The trade thing, though, I keep getting caught up on because I do like the free and open trading that we see in Diablo 2 and Diablo 3, complete opposite direction, right? So Diablo 4, they're trying to mix and match. You can trade some stuff, but not everything. But there was a really actually interesting theory I saw around trading that was just implemented in another game. You may have heard about it, Last Epoch. Have you ever?
I've heard of the game, but
big on it.
I've never played it, but I've heard of the game. I've never played it either.
But they just announced their philosophy on trade, if you will, and how they want to implement it into their game. And you play through the game, you get to a certain point, and then you have to decide whether you want to play solo self-found, which means you can't trade your items, and you get a boost to what can drop, or you can play sort of in a trade league, and then whatever you find in a trade league, you can trade. The items don't drop as much, so that's one of the reasons that games are balancing around trade. If you do have free and open trade, then you have to make those really valuable items very difficult to find, like a burr rune. How hard is a burr rune to find, especially if you're playing on P1?
The people in the comments for my videos, it's pretty easy to find 5 burr runes in a day.
For everyone but us, apparently. But if you have a solo self-found like Diablo 3 is basically solo self-found, you can't trade anything. You've got items dropping left and right. So you kill a boss and 10 unique items drop. So what if you give players that option? If you're playing in the solo league, then you can't trade, or you could choose to play in the trade league, and you have that. Now, maybe, we still have the issues that you mentioned. There's going to be people botting and maybe trying to profit off of the game in the secondhand market. But that's always going to happen if you have a free. It means your game's good. It means people are playing it. If people aren't playing your game, if people aren't enjoying your game, there's no market for these kinds of things. So you're almost shooting yourself in the foot by saying, I'm going to take this thing out that, just because people are going to like the game too much and want to pay real money items. It's a double-edged sword. And I don't know I don't have the answer of what, the perfect formula is, but I thought I heard that, that Last Epoch philosophy on trade and how they're going to implement it. And I thought it might've been a good idea for D4. But
that is interesting. Yeah. And it pretty much is, and I know you said you didn't play it. Last Epoch must be like all exclusively like online then, right? There wouldn't be like an offline single player like D2 if they have that. But it's kind of interesting because with my opinion for online stuff, I do want the trading and stuff, but I have no problem with having something being like solo self-found, obviously with me doing so much single player. But part of my like wanting for trading and stuff is because, like you said, for not really worrying about people making real money off it, because that means your game was so popular that people would actually spend real money for it. That's part of the reason why I think the online should have trading, because I know that it would make the game so much better, more popular, that people would like it so much more. Because even if you make things have a higher drop rate or whatever, you're not always going to be able to get the stuff that every single thing that you need, or you're not going to be able to hang on to every single item in case you want to try it. So you'll, and this is obviously they're not going to have the same exact things, but how many times in D2R you want to cube up a rune, you're like, oh, I don't have a flawed diamond. Oops. Right. I can't trade nobody for it. I just got to go farm for a flawed diamond. Like if they didn't have trade, I got to farm for a flawed diamond for the next week. Great. Cool. So yeah. I definitely think any online game with people playing together, you should definitely have open trade, in my opinion.
I think I'm in agreement.
So, Let's see, on Diablo 4, you said you definitely got in the you pre-purchased. You're going to be in the whole open
Oh yeah,
beta, the pre thing like that. What do you think
for
about
sure.
the whole paid cosmetics stuff? I know, and I'll just go ahead and for this particular one, I'll throw out my opinion right off the bat. For paid cosmetics, I'm not really a huge. I don't have a huge issue with it. It shouldn't be anything to help out the game. They swore up and down it wouldn't. So I guess I'm fine with it. As I'm assuming that that's all accurate and true. There's been some people, and I'll just kind of pre-address it because I know it'll come in the comments, and it's definitely something that's not completely worth not noting. So, but people, I've gotten comments to where it's, some people can't resist, the putting their credit card in, kind of like almost like the gambling aspect, and FOMO of missing out on different cosmetics and stuff like that. I fully understand that point from that I get from some people, but they should definitely, I think those people should steer clear of any game that has paid cosmetics or paid anything. But I think that just being able to make the game like sustainable long term, if they're going to have it like live service, I suppose is what they said, right? That they're going to constantly be having more content, different changes and stuff. I'm perfectly fine with the paid cosmetics, as long as it doesn't, it never ventures into benefiting anybody besides like, oh, bro, that looks sick. So how do you feel about the whole paid cosmetic stuff?
I am 100% in agreement. I do not want any paid incentive to affect the actual game itself. I do not want you to be able to buy power. Diablo 4 has swore up and down that that's not going to happen. I believe them. I've seen, I'm pretty up to date on everything that's going on, and I've not seen any indication that paying any amount of money will help your power. For people who are, subject to the FOMO and paying money that they may not have to spend on cosmetics, and it's sort of a got you, and they prey on that sort of feeling. Then I feel for those people, and it's unfortunate, that they have that, that they're unable to control their spending when it comes to those things. But I think for the majority of cases, we're all adults, and I'm not going to tell you how you should spend your money. While I would never, I don't see why I would want to purchase any sort of cosmetic incentives. It's not something that I've ever really been too interested in. I'm not gonna. I don't have anything wrong with other people, spending money to look a certain way in the game. If that's how they want to look, then go for it. I'm not gonna, I'm never gonna fault you for spending your own money. Like, we're all adults. We make money. We can spend it however we want.
Mm-hmm.
But it's unfortunate that, that there's sort of a preying aspect to it. But if they're preying on people for that FOMO, that's not right. But the only way that Diablo 4 games cost money, and I think that's probably the smaller population of people that's playing that really have that FOMO, and they feel inclined to have to purchase. I think a lot of people want to. I played Path of Exile. I was happy to buy a supporter pack because the game was free, and I needed, the stash tabs because I had invested 100, 200 hours into a game that I got for free. I think the developers deserve my money at that point. Not everyone feels the same way that I do, but I just got a game for free. I got 100 free hours of entertainment for it. Yeah, here, take $40 so I can have stash tabs and I can have a better gaming experience, whatever. It doesn't affect how strong I am in the game, but it was, a little quality of life. But they haven't even committed to that. They're all so far we've heard is cosmetic changes to your character and, your mounts and what have you. That I have no problem with. The only way that we're going to continue to get development on this game, new things in this game, devs that care what the public thinks, that are going to give us seasonal updates, is if they are able to, maintain some sort of money stream from the game. Like, this is a business we're talking about. Like, it's Blizzard. They, their job is to make money. We shouldn't, immediately, cast stones upon them because they are trying to make money, which they are designed to do. Like, that is what a company does. They're making a game. We get enjoyment. They get money. That's the transaction. So if they have microtransactions that people are spending money on to get cosmetics to make them look cool, then they're more incentivized to keep developing the game and making a really great game that we have more and more fun with. If you don't like them, don't buy them. Guess what? You don't have to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like you said at the start. Yeah, I think we're pretty much in lockstep there. So I don't know. I might. I was thinking with being in my position, I usually would, but I might buy a couple cosmetics this time, just being content creator guy, and maybe just see what's up, so people can kind of see them. And I mean, I guess it'd be kind of fun to try one time. Why not? Or whatever.
I did buy. I bought the highest package. I don't know if that probably came with something.
I did too.
I was just like, it's Diablo 4. I'm gonna buy the biggest package. I'm a sucker.
You get some skin in Diablo 3. You get some skin in Diablo Immortal. So if you want to hop in Diablo Immortal,
don't play either of those. No, it probably went to waste on me, but I bought it anyway because I'm super excited. Like you said, I'm a content creator too. I want the biggest thing. I bought the collection edition. That was probably I didn't think too much about that. I was so hyped up for this game. I bought it.
The candle and the cloth map or whatever.
It's I'm probably never going to open it. I think it's a cool box. So I'll probably just maybe throw it in the background and just, have it as a collectible. I got the Diablo 2 collector's edition back there. Okay. It was, I like the collector's editions of stuff. So I was like, yeah, why not? I mean, this is my favorite franchise, my favorite series. So I grab it and hold on to it. I'll just look at it every once in a while. I don't think I'm gonna burn the candle or anything, but I don't. Yeah. I thought it was cool. I'm all on board with the Diablo 4 hype, so they could probably sell me just about anything. I'm a sucker, I guess.
Yeah, I'm kind of hyped, but yeah, like I was saying before, I'm a little subdued. Just maybe it's just my own personality traits or whatever, just to be a little bit a little bit cautious. I don't want to say super cautious, but a little cautious as far as it comes to everything. Even things not video game related. Even if it's purchasing anything like that, I'm always pretty cautious with any big life event, like spending a ton of money or something like that, or something as important as Diablo to us. That's a big life event to us. So pretty cautious personally. So with the whole paid cosmetics, there'll be the there'll be two different battle passes, right? Is the way they explain it. There'll be a free and then the paid cosmetic battle pass. Do you have any strong opinions on like the free battle pass type of deal, or the free and paid tracks, or do you have any strong opinions either way on those ones? Or
so I never really played games that had battle passes. My first one was I did play Diablo Immortal. So I played Diablo Immortal for about a week or two, and there were two different battle passes in that. So it seemed like in Diablo Immortal, the battle pass made more sense to me than the battle pass in Diablo 4. I'll be honest, I don't totally understand why they even put a battle pass in Diablo 4. In Diablo Immortal, you could buy the battle pass and it got you upgrades faster and quicker that directly impacted your build and made you stronger. In Diablo 4, it seems like the battle pass just gives you access to other cosmetics that you wouldn't get if you were just using the normal battle pass. So it's all around cosmetics again. And the way I see it, you're either spending $20 on the battle pass or you're spending $20 directly to the shop and getting a cosmetic that way. At the end of the day, the fact that they even included a free battle pass seems like, a benefit to the regular player base. But I think we get caught up. I think people are getting caught up in the term battle pass because it's used in a lot of other games where maybe it has more of an impact outside of just cosmetic features. Like, I think even Hearthstone, another Blizzard game, has a battle pass, but you like get actual packs from, Hearthstone packs, which, directly equate to your power in the game. So I think battle pass is a term that's used synonymously across all different games, but the way that Blizzard seems to be implementing it is still just around cosmetics. Like, buying the battle pass is not going to make you stronger. It might give you a cooler cosmetic that you wouldn't have if you didn't buy it. But at the end of the day, we're still just talking about cosmetics.
Yeah, I think
I think the conversation always revolves around that, I'm okay.
I think with the free battle pass, I'm pretty sure I'm remembering right that at least for one of the bonuses for playing enough, I don't know if it's like days in a row, I guess is generally how battle passes go. Like I said, I don't have a huge experience with battle passes either, but that one of them would be like an experience gain boost. I do think they did mention that one specifically. So, and that's not necessarily there would be no pay for uh pay for any boost to your character or whatever. But with that being in the free battle pass, that's one thing, and it's not even like a deal breaker for me. But I'm almost positive. I've been wrong in the past, so I don't want to say 100%, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm wrong sometimes, but I'm pretty sure they did mention that, and
That's a good
that
point.
would lead to that would definitely be like a FOMO part to where like, oh, I got to get the experience gained. If I don't, I'm gonna fall behind people. It's not a paid thing.
Right. So
So,
that's actually a great point, Phil. And I when we were doing the media beta, I actually had a chance to get an exclusive interview with the devs.
oh, okay.
And I never made a video on it because I was so busy that weekend, and everyone released their videos. I was like, nobody wants to see my video. But I don't know that anyone actually talked about this. It was a question that I asked. You could put it in the title of the video, but I asked them, you know, what is this game going to look like to the average person that's working an everyday job? Are we gonna have all this FOMO where you feel like you have to log in every day, and whether that's coming from the MMO aspects, which I feel like this battle pass I think could be qualified as sort of an MMO kind of experience. I think you see them more commonly in there. And not only that, but the bosses, the overworld boss fights that you have to group up together, and the time restrictions on those. And it was something that was very important to me because I have tried some of the other MMO games recently because I was interested in how we could take these aspects and put them into Diablo 4. And I did see that it created a lot of this feeling like you had to play if you wanted to keep up. And that was the worst feeling in the world. Honestly, it felt more like the game was a job and not something fun that you do. And I expressed this concern to Blizzard and to them, and they assured me that while they haven't fully finished the tweaking on how often these events are going to come, that there is a limit, and I'm allowed to share any of this, because this was part of the interview. There is a limit to in the boss fights of how many you can do per week. So think of these, huge boss fights and MMO boss fights, style boss fights where you group up all together and you take down this foe and you get a reward that you could only get, or at least like it's guaranteed to get through this specific boss fight. And maybe it's a unique helm or something. You can only do that boss fight, even though it comes every day, it appears every day. You can only get that reward once per week or something, something along those lines, once per week or 3 times a week. So while, yes, you could log in and do that boss fight every day, you're only going to get the big reward once a week. And so if you're doing it multiple times, maybe it's good that you can do it multiple times because then you can help your buddy do it and then he'll get the reward. You won't get the reward the second time, but your buddy will get it the second time. So they don't want to completely remove you from being able to do that fight every day if you wanted to, but you just will only get the really special reward one time. And I thought that a week is probably enough time where you could find some time if you were really dedicated to the game to get in and do that boss fight and get that special reward. But something like logging in every day to get an experience boost, that doesn't really sit all that right with me either. I think immediately I get that feeling of when I played these other MMOs and I felt like I literally had to play every day to keep up, and that's never a great feeling. It doesn't feel like you're playing a video game at that point, but why do they do it? For their numbers. They want to show an active player base, and you can't really fault them for doing it, but it creates an environment that is not fun. I don't think personally for a video game.
yeah,
But that was the thing that I had asked them.
yeah, I don't think it's like necessarily a deal breaker for me in any way. It's one thing that's just kind of a small, just kind of negative, because I know how it could be to some people. There is actually even, and just to show how it wouldn't necessarily be a deal breaker, some of the stuff they even added to Diablo 2 Resurrected, in my opinion, like if you actually sit down and think about it for a second, like the even the declone spawning, that's kind of a FOMO thing right there. Like you got the declone tracker websites, you're like, oh no, declone's going to spawn on Asian server at 10:47. Well, I guess I got to get up at 4:30 and go to work, but I want this Annie. So then all of a sudden you're going to work on 4 hours of sleep and something like that. Like some of these things are kind of I don't want to say inevitable, but or this has happened to me as well. I'm speaking from experience here. You know what I mean? When you're like, oh man, I gotta go do this or that. Like I should really go. I don't want to say it's too loud. I gotta go fold the laundry or something. I don't want the wife to hear me. But then you're like, oh man, it's terrorized cows. Like, maybe we can do that tomorrow. You know what I mean? So there's gonna kind of be some of these aspects that, like, I mean, if you make a game that I want to play, at some point, it's going to FOMO me into playing because I like it, You don't want them to make a bad game. Like, I have no FOMO on missing out on Diablo 3, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I'm not FOMO'd into anything on that game. They did a great job at having no FOMO. But hopefully Diablo 4 FOMOs me a little bit so that I want to play it. So it's not, I just wanted to kind of emphasize that I'm not like tearing the game apart, but yeah, there is sometimes that sometimes the battle passes they just feel cheap, and kind of in my opinion. So
yeah, I see where you're coming from.
So yeah, for Diablo 2 Resurrected, are there any type of changes? I know you probably want some more changes than I do, but what would you think? I know Diablo 4 is coming around, so I don't know how many more changes are going to come really to Diablo 2 Resurrected. What stuff would you like to kind of see in the future for D2R?
So there's so much you can do around changing unique items. I think at the end of the day, like that, if I could do one thing, I want to change unique items, all the unique items that don't get used, and even, even maybe introduce some new ones like they're doing with rune words. I love what they're doing with the rune words. I love that they're adding new rune words to the game, but I don't think rune words are the end all be all. I think we have this great system that already exists in the game with unique items that really could use an updating to, patch 2.6. Everything else has been updated. You can balance classes just through the items that we get, and everything doesn't have to be a mosaic, or it doesn't have to look like a unique item from Diablo 3 where you get a special unique ability, but just make them usable. Like I'd love to see, you drop a Mang songs and say it's going to cast lower res for you when you're teleporting around, or just add some cool things to these
There's
items.
No way you just came up with that on the spot. You thought about that one before.
I've thought about this a lot. Listen, Blizzard, call me if you want, or me and Phil, we'll go through, we'll look at every unique item and we'll give you a recommendation on how you could change it, how you could adjust it a bit slightly. And like, I'm playing through the game, Phil, and I see a unique item drop. Most of the time, I just pass it by. Like, it's not even something I would pick up my character. Like, they're pretty rare to find in terms of all the items, all the stuff that we see on our screen. If we see a gold name, I want to pick it up. I want to be able to put it on. I want to immediately get stronger from it. And there's just so many bad items in the game where even if you found it on a speed run or a normal playthrough or a single player or a ladder reset, you wouldn't even use it. And it's a unique item. It's supposed to hold all this power, and it provides you with little to no benefit. I'd like to be able to pick up an item that's unique and put it on and get to use it. We talk about D2R, we talk about Diablo 2 itemization like it is the holy grail for all other games. I don't think it is in its current, like, I really think some of the unique items are great, but I'd like to see everything sort of on par with what's a very mid, like a unique item, like a vampire gaze. I think vampire gaze is a great item. It's maybe not the meta in some cases, maybe in one specific niche it's the best helm that you could use, but it's pretty strong. It's pretty usable. What if everything were sort of level to that? Like, yeah, you're still gonna have your Shakos, you're still gonna have your your arachnids, mesh, and the unique items that are really great and everyone's gonna use. But why not have everything sort of on that same playing field, for its level requirement? Like, Vampire Gaze is really good for its level, but why can't we get some level 18 items that are good that we could pick up and use if we need to? And then why are these super rare items? Like, why isn't every TC87 as strong as a Griffin's, or even close? Like, some of them you'd never even pick up if you saw them drop. But Executioner's Justice, who's going to use that? Who's ever going to use that weapon? It's just it's worthless, but
Great
it's so rare to drop. Oh, it's beautiful. Wouldn't you love to pick one up and start swinging it at something and actually do like some damage? Wouldn't that be cool? Like, I don't need to use a grief every time. I don't need to use Breath of the Dying. I don't think we have to we have to accept that rune words are the end all be all to our builds. I'd love to see the unique item system reworked. And there's such a rich system built into the game already. You don't have to change drop rates at all. Just make the items good. Like the system is already there. It already exists. They just need to be worthwhile to find. And I think that would be a great change to the game. And you could even tweak and gear them towards the classes that you think need to be buffed and changed. And then you don't have to go through the effort of doing a class balance change necessarily. If you on every melee weapon, if you give them melee splash, guess what? You get just boosted melee builds. You just gave them a great buff that maybe makes them viable.
Yeah,
again.
You're on the splash damage train. You're one of those guys, right?
I'm saying that there are melee gets a lot of flack, right? So the way that melee interacts in this game, you don't see a lot of people. I don't see you playing melee much, Phil. And I've caught your streams.
There's no. Pit Zerker is about it. Yeah, I guess you're right.
Pit Zerker is great. Pit Zerker is a great build, but I'd like to see more melee. Barbarian he's the centerpiece when we open up the game, and he's really good at what he does. Right, Pit Zerker, best in the game at farming unique items, target farming, what have you. But that's really it. Like the Barb is really good at doing those things, but why can't he be good at doing other things? He's such a powerful force. He's the center of the campfire when you sign on, but nobody plays him. You couldn't sell a barb torch. You couldn't give away a barb torch if you found one on as your first torch of the season. It's just not a build that's very popular. So I say, why not make these characters better? I think the class balances, it will be balanced when every torch is worth the same. When you're not, really gambling for that Sork torch. And we saw it this season, actually, like assassin torches. People people really, I do a lot of Ubers on stream. So this is how I can tell that the games are balanced. Like you saw me do the minute Ubers. It's because I do so much. I want to make sure I can do it fast. People are loving assassin torches this season. Before you couldn't get rid of assassin torch. You couldn't trade one for a lem rune. And that's how I know that some balances come to that class. And I'd like to see, a more even distribution of all the characters used. And I think a lot of the melee classes are still lacking. So however you want to address it, whether it's through my idea of unique items or through other balance changes, that's what I would be for in terms of changes for the future.
Okay.
Yeah, and I really like unique items. I think it's a missed opportunity to not, tweak them. It doesn't have to be massive changes. Just make them usable, so I pick it up and I can put it on.
I feel like, and this is pure speculation on my part, but I'm guessing the reason that they do the rune word thing is I think it's probably just easier, right? That would be my suspicion, because if they did end up reworking uniques, I think they might fall into the same situation that Project Diablo 2 did. And I don't know, I'm not a programmer, but it would mess up like non-ladder, people melting down because their wind forces got bricked and it's just it poofed or something because they changed something. So I'm guessing like the reason that they just keep going back to rune words is because they can change this or that or add this in, and then boom, nothing gets deleted or changed. It's something new on top of, and it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you had known this, but actually, if you had made a rune word before they added in the rune word, when it comes in, it just turns into the rune word. Did you know that? Because I had some people
that's kind of cool.
Like, oh no, I'm on non-ladder. I made a flickering flame and it just like didn't do anything. We're like, dude, it's not on non-ladder yet. We're like, well, I'm like, don't Charcy it yet. Just wait. And somebody had told me this. They're like, oh yeah, when the ladder reset or whatever and they were on non-ladder, it just turned into a flickering flame. Like it was awesome. I was like,
that's so cool.
I'm happy for you.
I think I did that by accident once and I couldn't explain how it happened, but I now it makes sense. I think I was doing single player and I realized you couldn't make spirit on single player after I made one and it messed up. And then I was like, is there any way I could get a spirit on a single player? And they're like, yeah, just download Pluggy or whatever and you can do it. So I think I might have messed around with Pluggy and then it retroactively made my brick rune word into
old,
a spirit.
Like on old Diablo you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, old Diablo.
Oh yeah, Pluggy for D2R, that'd be
Yeah. They kind of gave it to us with like shared stash
Yeah,
tabs
yeah,
and
yeah. That's
stuff
kind
like
of the
that.
joke. Yeah, D2R is
Uh,
essentially everything Pluggy was,
yeah.
just without
Right.
unlimited stash. But
Yeah. It was an easy, easy path to follow. They just had to copy Pluggy. But so the thing I mentioned about uniques, it's not unprecedented for uniques to change. They did it. We saw it in like 1.08 and
oh wait,
1.07. They talk about oh 08 Valks
I guess
and
that
stuff
is
like
true.
that.
I will
And,
just real quick. I'll jump in. I did forget
yeah,
about
sorry.
back then that they did change that stuff before. So good call.
Yeah, so I think there's some precedent. That was a completely different company, and I think you're absolutely right that it's easier, hands down, to make rune words seemingly than it would be to make a unique item, or or even change items, or even make new ones. You're going to have a lot of legacy items on the server, so it's another great point that you put up. These unique items that we already have are not going to change with us. We are, by changing rune words, by changing the unique items, you're creating a bunch of legacy items for non-ladder that will no longer be able to be found. So maybe that is part of the reservations.
Hmm.
We've seen, something like an oh 08 Valk, now that you can't find it anymore, it goes crazy on the aftermarket in terms of
Mm.
value, and balloons out of control. Maybe they're trying to prevent some sort of situation like that. But if it's always buffs, like if you're always buffing the item and you're not nerfing anything, then it really shouldn't affect things too much. But we're just speculating now, but it,
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
it
yeah.
would be interesting. If I had control over what changes were made,
King Lucky
that's
for a day.
yeah, yeah, that would be my change. I'd love to rework the unique item systems.
Yeah,
I
I forgot about that whole the '08 Valk and the old Vamp gaze and stuff. I completely
Yeah,
forgot about that. Thanks for bringing that up. That's a good point. I actually kind of now, like, looking back on that old '08 stuff, it's super. I kind of like the fact that that stuff exists, even though, like you said, the whole aftermarket real money type of situation for that. But it's kind of super interesting to, like, imagine the people that still hold a piece of like Diablo 2 history from
yeah,
2002 or something.
yeah.
Like 20
That is
years
cool.
later, you have this fake code on a server somewhere that you've been holding for 20 years, or that you had gotten from somebody who, it's almost crazy.
Not
It's
to
like
mention, you have to refresh every 90 days to
right,
keep it going.
like these '08 Velks, they're essentially like the original NFTs. Like,
That's
Diablo
good. That's
2
a good
invented
point.
NFTs, people. You heard it here first.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it creates this piece of history. Yeah, you said it perfectly.
That
A lot.
is,
You could down memory lane, look at all these old items, and feel some real
I
nostalgia.
know.
It's
Imagine if somehow like back in the day, some of those old like hacked items survived or something. Do you imagine how much like a hex charm would be looking for right now, or a
yeah,
white ring, or one of the cork bows, or an stuff?
all kinds of crazy items that made their way onto the server.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oxy rings could be just like, whoo, whoo.
Yeah, imagine one of those in D2R, man. Oh boy.
That's one of
We'll,
those
we'll
uniques
go
you're
crazy.
looking for. A 3 to sorceress skills ring, right? No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. That's not what you're talking about. I'm just messing around.
Cooley had a cool video that talked about the theory of like meshed uniques happening, and that it could happen in D2R, but it's extremely rare.
Oh yeah, yeah, the
I don't
hybrid
know
uniques
if
and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, the hybrid uniques. And if we ever saw something like that, I think that would just be so cool for the rarity, even if it stunk. Like, just so cool when you see stuff like that happening.
Oh yeah, for sure. I did see the video you're talking about too. Yeah, Cooley's got a lot of great videos. I
Great
assume
history.
he just knows a lot of that stuff, because it would take forever to do all that research. He makes some good stuff for sure. But yeah, I haven't heard of any fused uniques in D2R. I assume it's still possible, but I don't know everything about that type of stuff
Yeah,
personally.
pretend
But
to either.
boy, it would be sick. Like, I haven't seen a single one anywhere. But man, that'd be just think about it'd be wild. So yeah, for changing uniques, I guess I'm not too sure. I guess I would be for it, but I guess kind of in my own personal opinion, I'm just so cautious about stuff, I guess. So
Yeah.
I guess They should hire you to change them. Then I could trust it. I could trust it then,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Right?
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, you can trust me. Yeah, sure. I'll just give you +3 Sork skills on a ring. It'll be okay. Trust me.
There we
The
go.
last class I would buff would be a sorceress.
Sorcerers need
Trust me, yeah.
for minus 20% cold resistance, 3
Yeah.
skills.
That's one of the things everyone was asking for a Sork Orb rune word this season.
Yeah,
I'm like, what do you ask? What do you want a Sork Orb rune word? That's the last class that needs.
Not that it needs to get some huge buff, but just like there's every sorcerer's orb, there's no reason to touch them. You know what I mean? I guess it either give you a reason or filter them out, right? Loot filter, so filtering out all the sorcerer's orbs, right? So
yeah, that's fair, but you'd say the same about
arrows,
Amazon javelins, anything you can, any class specific item that you can't make a rune word in, which, yeah, I guess there's not much for it, but listen, Sorks don't need any more love. I start a Sork every season and I always do it begrudgingly because I'd love to be playing a character that I like more. Like I just wanted to go right into Assassin this season because I was so excited about all the changes, but I knew the best way to do it would be to make a sorceress so I could spam Mephisto and get all my gear super quick, and that was the only way to do it. But it's some of the charm of the game. Some of the nostalgia is associated with playing your Sork, tricking Mephisto on day one because that's the only way you could kill him otherwise. And I don't want to take away from that. I would just I don't think options are ever a bad thing. Giving people more options and more classes to play, because before this season, if you looked in the lobby, it would all look the same. It would be either a paladin or sorceress. When I say everyone, I mean 90%. They'd all have a green hat on and whatever else. If it was a sorceress, they'd probably look a little purple with Tal set. If they were a paladin, they'd have some form of enigma on and a Haas maybe, or a sacred targe. That's not a diverse game. That's not options. Like when everyone looks the same, we talk about itemization, and everyone loves, like I said before, everyone loves to say Diablo 2 has the best itemization. Why does every character look the same to me? Why does every sorceress look like a carbon copy of each other? Why does every paladin look like a carbon copy of each other? We see all these Hammerdens, we see all these, cold sorceresses, and we get in a game and there's a cold immune and nobody could kill it because everyone started cold in 2.5. It was terrible. I love that there's assassins now that can drop traps and do lightning damage. So, every bail run I join now, I don't have to worry about that. Like we would have bail runs in 2.5 completely bricked because everyone was playing Cold Sork that season. Everyone. And then wave 2 would come and nobody could kill them. But now, I love that we get assassins in every bell run that we do, and the assassins absolutely shredded because they're a good class. We got 2 crazy buffs to assassin this season in the form of Pierce for traps and the mosaic. So I don't see anything wrong with options. Like if you don't like them, you don't have to play them, but you don't have to play it to be great because you could still play the things that existed all this time. You can still play your Hammerdin. You can still play your Sorceress. They're still great characters. They're not nerfing anything. They're just giving you more options of things you could play and actually be end game viable. Before that, you'd have to spend 100 high runes on a build just to clear things P1 speed that you could do on P8 with a Sorceress or a Hammerdin. So I'm all for it. Let people play the game how they want. Don't force them into the meta builds. And I think you have a game that's more easily approachable for everyone. So I'm very much on that front. And maybe it's because I play too much modded Diablo and I've been spoiled, but I like the options, and I don't like being handcuffed into any one class or build.
Gotcha. Yeah, and it could be, maybe you played the modded ones because it could be a chicken or the egg one. You're not sure. Do you think you played the modded versions, or you did anyways, because you like the changes in diverse, or do you think you like the changes in diverse because you played the modded ones, or do you think it's
no? I definitely got tired of Diablo 2. LOD. I was doing the same thing for the last 10. I mean, the last update we got, the last major content patch was probably Ubers in Diablo 2 LOD, and that had been probably 10 years before Project Diablo 2 came out. So it had been 10 years since we got any sort of new stuff to do in that game. And while I love that game, I could play it. It's the only game I played for this long. I liked the idea of a game in the Diablo 2 world that kept to what I thought, the very nature of the game. Like they didn't go Median XL on it. If you've ever seen Median XL, that's a completely different game. I feel like the devs over at Project Diablo 2 stayed true to the nature of what a Diablo 2 game should have been and should feel like, and really tried to make a game that, if we saw those last 10 years of constant updates and balance changes, that would have been the end result, maybe, instead of 10 years of nothing. And we can say that it would have looked exactly the same, but Diablo 2, Project Diablo 2 felt like a Diablo game to me, whereas some of these other mods don't. And I'm not trying to sell anyone on Project Diablo 2 or anything like that. It's I'm very much enjoying what we've been getting in Diablo 2 Resurrected. I'm very, very happy with the devs that they've committed to continuing to update the game and giving us content patches like we just got in 2.6. And I think, they know what needs to be updated and changed. But what drove me to that was, I felt like the game was stale. I wanted a Diablo 2 experience. I wanted it to feel like Diablo 2, the game that I love so much. But I wanted to be able to try out new things and new classes. And I wanted to play a summoner that could be viable. Like that's a cool idea to me. Nowadays, like you can't do a summoner. You can't really do much of anything with a summoner. And D2R. We have these great skill trees.
Are you talking a summon necro or
both? You could play both, in Project Diablo 2. Like what are they good now? Like
a summon necro's pretty. I mean, in my opinion, I love. Actually, when I started on single player, I went through with a sorceress originally, but I didn't get any good stuff. Then I came through with a summoner, and actually, I did a first charity live stream with a summoner with a Nage's Puzzler and like a Peasant's Crown and stuff, and slayed the Chaos Sanctuary for 12 hours. Players 3 to start off, but because the Might Mercenary and the Summoner, or the summons and stuff, Corpse Explosion, you've heard of it probably. But I think the Summon Necro is actually a really good starting off character. But not to completely interrupt you, but
yeah, no, maybe I'm not giving them enough credit, but yeah, if you played a summoner in Project Diablo 2, man, you'd be going nuts then. If you like D2R summoner, then yeah, I mean
they can bring up bodies to resurrect, right? In Desecrate or something it's called.
Oh yes, you don't have to kill minions in order to summon. There's just like little quality of life stuff. Plus they buffed. You could have more than one golem, for instance, so you could be purely a golem mancer if you don't want to be a skelly mancer necessarily. There's just options, and they work. You have this skill in the necromancer skill tree right now, golem mastery. Like whoever puts a point into golem mastery, what are you doing with that skill? Like who uses it? This in Project Diablo 2, you could go down just the golem half of your summoning tree and have an insane build that can clear, all of hell solo, which is cool.
I did witness I seen some videos of like fire golem right now. There's no reason to put a point into that, right? And I've seen, like you said, 3 or 5 you could have. I've seen fire golems around just like punching players 8 cows dead, like. So
yeah, and there's definitely power creep, but some of the things that you mentioned with when you get in and you're balancing so much stuff, you come across the inevitable part where they're gonna have to balance it every season. And I think the D2R devs have done a fantastic job with not breaking the stuff that works already. Like it's good, and they're not making anything worse. They're not nerfing Hammerdens. They're not nerfing Blizzard sorceresses. Even though if they come out with something that's just as strong, everyone wants to nerf it. They are keeping, the old builds consistent and strong. They're just introducing, a couple of the other things that are bringing other classes sort of on par or maybe just below that level, which I think is cool because you have these other things that exist. Most people who want to play very effectively or are very efficient players are going to want to choose to play those classes. But now you're giving them another option. We have a lot of first-time assassin players who never touched the class before just because of the changes this season. So I think that I think it makes the game more a more in-depth experience. It's a more complex game when you start getting into other classes and learning about their specific breakpoints and their skill trees that you may have never seen. I think it makes the Diablo 2 experience so much more rich when you can go and play on multiple characters every season. You don't just make a sorceress every season, farm a few bell runs, and then you're like, I'm tired of doing the same thing over and over. I've done this for 20 years. Where's the spark? Where's the excitement that I get from doing that? And some people could do that, until they're blue in the face. People do 1,000 meth run videos and they love that, and that's great. But I I have a hard time just sitting there and I've done how many meth runs in my life? I've done 1,000, as well. But do I really want to go and do another 1,000, or do I want to, build up this crazy sick assassin and see how fast I can do Ubers if I can do them the fastest they've ever been done, or go through and try to clear a P8 chaos with this whole new skill tree that I have to learn all the mechanics about, and which charges do I use for which areas where they're going to have different immunities. Like, it's such the mosaic assassin, the martial arts assassin. It's a build that requires you to be a little bit more cerebral about how you go about building it, using it, which charges you want to use in which situations. It's not as simple as, okay, I'm a hammered in. I know I need to hammer. I need to teleport. Well, it would be great if I had my concentration aura up too at the same time. Like, that's all you have to remember. It's very simple. It's very easy. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to play that play style, go for it. No one's stopping you. It's still there. It still exists. Martial arts assassin is a little bit more in depth than that. And if you want that experience out of the game, if you want a build that is a little bit, more in depth, that you might have to think about a little bit more, and you're tired of doing the same thing, that's kind of the stuff that excites me. And that's why I've been so excited about theory crafting the martial arts assassin. Why, that's the character that I've been playing the most this season. Why I'm trying to push it to, the highest point that it can go. And it's exciting. I get a lot of joy out of theory crafting new things. So anything that Blizzard adds to the game or change to the game, I immediately, either I'm thinking of how I can apply it, or I'm watching, one of Macro Bowboy's videos or someone who's another great theory crafter when it comes to some of the new stuff that that games have been implemented, or Sweet Phil. I'm looking at. If I'm not
much of
myself,
a theory crafter. I'm more of an MF grinder, like you said before. But
I'd love to hear the opinions either from everyone, because we're all different players, and it's important that some of these things hit on everyone. The changes that they make, they shouldn't just make changes for speedrunners. Sure, I'd love to see a new speedrunning rune word entered into the game, but they shouldn't make changes to the game just for that. They should make changes that impact everyone. The theory crafters, give them a little something to think about. Give Sweet Phil something for his MF bail run so that he can do them faster, and he's finding some really good sick loot. Maybe he finds like a really nice base off of Mephisto, and that's a great video. There's so many things that you can do, and every person's opinion matters. I've seen some YouTube comments. Some of them are crazy. Their opinions matter too. No matter who you are, like, we are the lifeblood of this game at the end of the day. I thought that the changes that the devs made to the rune words after the first reveals was proof of that. They heard what we said. They didn't just stick to their guns and say, these are the rune words that you're getting, the ones that were revealed. They heard our feedback. They let us get in. They let us test them. Our feedback is important, and it's everyone. It's not just, the theory crafters or the magic finders. It's all of us together. And as long as we are on top of them, we don't give them a break. Like, we keep telling them what we want to see. Tell them we want to see loot filters. We want to see, whatever it is you want out of the game. As long as you are making it known to them, then you've done what you've done everything you can. Then it's on Blizzard's. The whole burden shouldn't fall on us. But as long as we're telling them what we want out of the game, it's on them to put it in, to implement it, and to give us a game that we want to play. And we have proof that they do listen with the changes that they made to the rune words, and hopefully, they'll keep listening to, the changes that we want to see in the future. So I'm hopeful.
I was say I love seeing, and it was part of what I brought up before. I love seeing the excitement that that you have for the changes. That's part of the, like I said before, it's one of the reasons I've kind of warmed up to it, seeing how much everybody is like, even if the changes are overpowered, like the cold mastery or something, like it doesn't really quote unquote break the game, not really. I mean, some people are getting over on the game or whatever. That was one that I felt did need to be nerfed, but like even for the one season, I don't feel like it broke everything, and it's so great like seeing everyone's excitement is really good for the game. I will be honest. So that was one thing. Like I said, it warmed me up to the changes. I'm sure you didn't say that stuff on purpose or whatever, but yeah, it totally fit in, and that's why I love talking to other content creators like yourself. Seeing comments. I'm glad I did those polls and stuff like that. That everybody really does love the changes. I don't know if I was going to ask you about another thing that you actually brought up right there, and I'm glad you did, because that's called a segue. People, you talked about loot filter, because Sweet Phil loves change, and there is one change that I would absolutely love, and I'll throw another one on top of it. The loot filter, I would love it. It must be, I can't imagine it'd be that hard, but for whatever reason, they've never really said a word about that. But loot filter and currency tab / more tabs. I'm not really sure which one would be better. I mean, personally, I know in different games they've implemented more stash tabs. I think it was what game did you say you could get extra stash tabs for more money? That free game.
Path of Exile.
Path of Exile. There we go. Yeah, or currency tab they have in some games. So I would love to not, if you did need to save those flawed emeralds and stuff like that, you could have a page for them, your keys, your perfect gems, your whatever and whatnot. Actually, that's another change that I would love. Get rid of the gem requirement on cubing up runes. Gosh, I hate that. But how do you feel about those three right there? Either getting rid of that's one specific one that I bring up myself, getting rid of the gem requirement, but the stash tabs / loot filter, whatever, or stash tabs or currency page, excuse me, and a loot filter. How do you feel about those? I'm assuming you would want a loot filter since you brought it up a second ago.
We're going to be on the same page, but I can shed some light into maybe some of those areas. And the gem requirement for runes, please get rid of that. I would never look back. I don't think anyone would be in disagreement on that. At least I would hope not. Nobody wants to go find a flawed emerald. It's pretty tedious. You don't want to keep them in your stash. They have no other purpose. Get rid of it. I'll save loot filters, I think, for the end. Currency tab. I think desperately needed. The fact that people have been asking for it so much and it is not yet available leads me to believe that it is one of those issues that is more difficult of a task to tackle. And the reason why is because I have gone through the growing pains of playing the modded versions of the game that have tried to implement similar systems and they have not gone well. We've seen, with currency tabs, the Diablo code, everyone has to understand, and it's an issue that the devs are also dealing with, even with having access to the source code. It is so complex, and you fix one thing or you implement one thing and then 20 other things break, and then you go down this rabbit hole, and it's just not an easy game to work with. So I understand and I sympathize for the devs when it comes to the currency stacking or currency tab. I would love to see it. It seems like a really low hanging fruit that if they could do it, they would give it to us by now. But I've seen that it has led to rampant duping, and it's created some interactions with the game that are maybe unfavorable in the mods that I've played, and these people have dedicated hundreds of hours to making a feature like that available. So I do sympathize, because I think that is a harder task to really tackle, but I would love to see it personally. I save loot filters because I have stronger opinions on the loot filters. Maybe
Get him, Lucky. Get him.
first off, I want to see a loot filter in the game, but let me know why a streamer that plays on the Asia servers, or from a Korean player, can play the game and they can have a loot filter and they can have colored keys. They have not only loot filters,
The
but they
light
have
coming down.
Yeah,
The light
they
pillars
have
and stuff.
all sorts of modified games, modified game files, loot filters. Loot filters already exist in the game. We could make them all ourselves, but so it's not a hard ask. And we're not demanding much by asking for a loot filter. Just say we're allowed to do it. The Korean streamers that have done it, they did go to their representatives. This is what I've heard. This is all translated, so I can't say for sure that this is what happened.
This is new news to me, so I can't wait to hear this.
The Korean streamers went to Blizzard has so I work with the Blizzard NA when I work with the community managers on the Diablo team, but Blizzard Korea has their own community managers, so they're different community managers than I get to talk. The Korean streamers have gone to their community managers and asked them if it's okay to have these loot filters and play online with them. Not only the loot filters, but they have skin filters too, so that their keys are different colors, so you can tell what's a D key, what's a hate key. And you mentioned the beams of light and even the runes with the numbers on them, so you can know which number the rune is. I've seen all sorts of both loot and item filters, and they got approval that it's okay for them to use, and that they're not going to come after them. You're not going to get banned for using them, and that it's okay on the Asian servers. For whatever reason, mum is the word for America servers. We have not gotten confirmation one way or another. People use them. I'll tell you right now. You could open up some streams. You might see people using them. People use them online. The capabilities are there. It exists. People do it anyway. Why can't you just tell us that it's okay? You're not changing anything in the game. You're just making the quality of life better for the player. So we could all do it on our own. You don't even have to implement the loot filter yourself. Just give us what apparently came from the community managers over in Korea, which was a confirmation that it's okay, you can do this, because then we could just do it ourselves. Sure, it's not going to be intuitive if we have to do it all ourselves. Like, it takes work to create your own loot filter, and it would be so much easier if there were an in-game interface, but at least we would have the option to be able to do it without fear of being banned. Like, I would never touch a loot filter online because I don't want to get banned. I don't want to lose my account, and I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. But I will tell you that there are people that do it. Some people even got confirmation from their community managers at Blizzard in a different country that it was okay. Why can't we get either a word one way or another that it is or isn't allowed? Because they haven't said that it is allowed, but they also haven't said that it isn't allowed specifically. Unless you try to read into the terms of service in the game and you can interpret it one way or another, you may feel the fence. But for me, as a partner and as a Diablo content creator, I wouldn't want to do anything that risks my account. So I would never recommend anyone else do something like that. But yeah, I was just kind of bummed when I found that out, that they got some clear clarification around those rules, and we haven't yet.
Yeah,
because that seems like low hanging fruit that they could address. And what's the excuse for not doing it?
Yeah, I haven't really been able to come up with a good reason why nothing loot filter wise had been, I don't know, implemented, or like you said, just allowed. Like, the number of people that are super intelligent people, BT Neanderthal has his mod that he did, and I know it's single player, but like, they got a loot filter in that, right? Like, or I know you said the problem with duping, whether you're doing rune stacking or the currency tab. I'm pretty sure that BT Neanderthal probably has one of those in there. I'm pretty sure. I haven't played it, but Project Diablo 2 had different things, and you said they worked through it, but there is the duping problem. But yeah, the loot filter one, just like you said, low hanging fruit. And I feel like that would actually, even though it doesn't change anything about the game, whether it's making things more powerful or anything like that, it would kind of bring hype to the game. I feel just, um, even though it, like you said, I feel like it wouldn't even be that hard. This, I mean, I pretty much, I just feel like I would just echo everything you said there. Like, even if they didn't do it themselves, have somebody, the people in the community could easily put something together, and I don't see how it could negatively affect the game in any way. So,
Yeah, agree.
yeah, so we're coming around on 2 hours here, but there is obviously going to be some non-Diablo related stuff. I love just a few different questions. I love getting to know people just a little bit, at least at the end here. For music wise, what type of music do you like listen to? Because for me personally, I hear it on stream, or I play it on stream, I should say. Different types of rock and metal, kind of my go-to generally. I do mix around with some old school country and anything from like the 90s and stuff like that, because that was like when you're growing up, that stuff makes an imprint on you. But modern, more like as I got older, I got into metal and rock and stuff. Where do you fall in the music spectrum?
Yeah, so I listen to just about anything. I would say like the hardcore metal is probably the only thing I don't really dabble in too much. But I like rock. Yeah, I'm not big on the metal. I actually looked up like a couple of the guys you recommended for the DMCA free music and stuff, and I liked some of the music that you've recommended in the past. I forget the name of the guys, but they
Like stuff you can listen to on stream and not get in trouble for, type
yeah,
of
yeah,
thing?
stuff you can
Okay.
listen to on stream.
And M Creations. I got the link in
That's
all my
it.
videos. And M
That's them.
Creations. That's
Yeah.
it's good backing track and stuff. I love it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I did like those. I listen to all sorts of music. Country music, I listen mostly in the summer. Like country music feels like summer music to me. I have a hard time listening to it in any other seasons. It's like seasonal for me. What music I like or what I'm in the mood for. But otherwise, like anything you wouldn't like, music you wouldn't expect someone like me to listen to. I really like Frank Sinatra and like easy
I was
listening jazz.
I was
And
just thinking in my head, I was like, he probably likes Frank Sinatra.
no way.
Well,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean,
love it.
I don't want to stereotype or anything, but Luciano,
Oh,
I mean,
sure. Yeah.
are you a mobster, or I don't know if that's a made up name or a real name. I don't know.
I'm Italian American, but no, I'm no mobster. The Lucky Luciano is, yes, but not me. I just play him on TV. But no, I mean, I grew up listening to that music. My family may be indirectly related to Frank Sinatra. I've heard, but everyone says they
Okay.
want to be related to Frank Sinatra. I grew up not far from where he grew up, and I like all that kind of stuff. The Jersey Boys. I like that kind of swing and jazzy and I love all that kind of music. I don't listen to it on stream much because I don't think Diablo players would really want to. And then I also I try to stick to DMCA free music when I can. But I think that would probably be the only one that might be a surprise to people, or maybe not. If you were thinking maybe it wasn't a surprise, but it's I guess uncommon.
Well, when you talked about not liking the metal and stuff, and then you listen to country sometimes, I was like, well, what could he possibly listen to then?
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's a good point.
I started to listen to that stuff a lot, and this kind of comes back to when I worked in the factory. You run out of things to listen to, and like especially 6, 7, 8 years ago, even podcasts weren't as big. There wasn't as much on YouTube. YouTube was big, so don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it wasn't, but like it wasn't as big as it is now. So I just ran out of the creators that I like to listen to, and like I mentioned before, way back like an hour and a half ago now, but when I played like Elder Scrolls and those other games, I don't know if you ever played Fallout before. Have you ever played the Fallout games before?
I've never played. No.
Okay, well, pretty much it takes place in like a post-apocalyptic world, as
Right.
if nuclear bombs went off in like the 50s,
Mhm.
like in the whole like nuclear bomb threat scare and stuff, World War II or whatnot. And so all the music in the game is old music. So there's old Rat Pack stuff, like old classic country.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe 50s wasn't the right number. I forget what year or whatever, but it's as if like everything ended then. So all the music is just old, super old classic country, and stuff like Rat Pack stuff and these different
I've got a
old
Rat Pack
songs.
poster right behind my stream
Oh,
setup.
nice. So I kind of, from playing that, you're sitting there with either headphones on or you're playing the game. When you play video games, hours and hours and hours, the songs are ingrained in your head. So I started listening to them at work, and then it's like you look up that one song and hit play, and then it rolls into the next and the next and the next, and all of a sudden you're like oh, pushing the buttons. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Yeah. So yeah,
I love that.
I haven't listened to the stuff as much lately, but just not having as much free time and stuff like that. But playing those old Fallout games got me into listening to that kind of stuff. So it's kind of funny that people our age in this modern day and time still like that super old music. I guess if it's good, it's good, right?
Yeah, that's really cool. I love that they put that in those games. I knew like a little bit of the premise of Fallout, but I didn't realize that they had all that kind of music in there. That's pretty cool. Maybe I should try it. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it's kind of got a shooter aspect to it, obviously, as well. And the story, it's the exact same people that made Elder Scrolls, right? So it's like it looks a lot like all the Elder Scrolls games, like each generation or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but you're shooting and it's post about zombies and giant, whatnot, and it's a really cool game. I'd recommend it to anybody, including you, Lucky. Very, very good if you ever get any free time. So, speaking of free time and playing other video games, what would you say? Because obviously, back before Diablo 2, you said you played Diablo 1 and stuff. Was there other games back in the day that you were just like obsessed with as a kid or as a child that kind of you played a ton of that really got your gaming juices flowing?
So this isn't going to help the fact that I look like a child sometimes, but I really I love the Nintendo games. Mario, I like Zelda games. I like Pokemon games. I loved playing those as a kid. And, I still do from time to time. I'll pick up a Nintendo. The Nintendo is the only current modern day system that I still played. I'm not going to say I didn't play a ton of Halo 1 through 3. Like I binged those games. I was playing those games all the time. Call of Duty 4 was probably the most unhealthy relationship I had with a game, I would say. But since Call of Duty 4, I don't really pick up too many first-person shooters. I played a little bit of Borderlands because I got recommended that game, and I thought it was an interesting take on a first-person shooter and combined it with a franchise that I like. So that's why I brought it up previously. But those are like, I've really liked Nintendo games, and people, like, they're not the most graphically intensive. They don't have the biggest budgets, but there's something about nostalgia for me. I don't have a lot of time to play video games, so I get stuck on the nostalgia games, and Diablo 2 is one of them. Honestly, like Diablo 2 is one of the nostalgia games. It brings me back to a time when I just loved playing video games. I was always big on video games growing up, and they still remind me of those times and feel good.
Gotcha. Yeah, the old school. Yeah, we had a Nintendo as well back in the day. It was kind of like when I was a kid, when it came to consoles anyways, it was always like almost like when the next console would come out, that's when we would get the other one, nice and cheap at the time. You could probably get a hand-me-down from your cousin or something.
Yeah.
So that's what and of course at that, then you get a huge game library as well, because there's all these millions of games out for it at the time. But yeah, my dad was actually huge into computers. So I probably should have got into computers and stuff like this probably before I honestly did. But we always had a computer in the house, and there's a game. You don't have to play it, but you got to Google it one time, Marath's World, and look at it. I don't have my podcast set up good enough right now to have it pulled up, but it was one of the first games I remember playing, and it's just like, the monsters are all these bright colors and everything, and you would it was like you would move. It was almost like I've never played D&D, but I've seen it described in movies and games where it's like, turn-based. Essentially, you would move forward, and then a monster would like move left or right, and then it would like freeze, So then you'd move, and then if the monster got next to you, you'd hit the F button to fight, and then it'd be like you swung and did 7 damage. It attacked and did 9 damage. You're like, oh geez, and like F. You missed and it did 7 damage. You're like, oh no. And then you'd have to decide what your next move would be. So
yeah,
it was almost like one of those turn-based tabletop type of games, but it was obviously a PC game. It was like came out in like 90, right?
Yeah.
Big old floppy, the actual floppy
Yeah.
disks.
Yeah.
So
Oh
that
yeah.
was probably one of the first games that really took a lot of my time or whatever. It was the closest thing to RPG at the time that I'd ever played. Obviously, um, the Duke Nukem and the original one, Duke Nukem 1 and 2, even before 3D came out, Wolfenstein, Doom, and all that stuff. We always had a computer, always had these games for whatever reason, So
Yeah.
I was kind of into computers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was, man, I almost couldn't pinpoint the first time video game wise, whether it's Oregon Trail or there's this one Odell Lake where you'd like eat other fish. Like it was crazy back in the day, the games that there was. But
Did you ever play I forgot to mention these, but I didn't think of computer games until you mentioned it. I liked a lot of like the RTS games, so like Warcraft 1 and 2 and Command and Conquer, like that series I remember really liking growing up.
all right, yeah, I played Warcraft. I played just a little bit, but that was one that I only ever played single player. Like there was the competitive online, I think maybe for the second, I don't know if it was for the first one or maybe it was just the second one, I can't remember, but I went to play online and it was like I just get slaughtered and I was like, what, that's not for me. I don't know. I don't even know what's going on. Like single player Warcraft in online Warcraft, not the same. Not the same at all. But I dabbled just a little bit.
Got it.
So cool. The other one you mentioned, what was the other one you mentioned there? I can't.
Command and Conquer. It's a kind of like a StarCraft kind of game, RTS, and I don't know. It was a series that I remember really liking growing up. For whatever reason, when you asked, my head directly went to like console games, but I'm trying to think of the PC games besides Diablo that I've played, and I definitely those took up a lot of my time. I never played online Warcraft. I remember seeing. I had friends growing up that were from Korea actually, and they came over to my house and we played StarCraft. I showed them, I have StarCraft. They're like, oh, I used to play this game all the time. I'm not allowed to play anymore. And I watched them play, and it's just like Warcraft, the same style of game. They were so good at this game, and I said to myself, I will never be as good. I don't understand what's going on. They're clicking so many actions, so many steps all at once, and I'll never be as good. So I never ventured into online play in any of those. And I also never played like a lot of people that play Diablo also played like World of Warcraft. I never got into those. That's a completely different type of game. But I had mentioned on the call, and it sounded like you were the same. We've never really played a lot of what you would consider an MMORPG. At least that's what I gather from talking to you.
Pretty much, yeah. So that's an accurate statement.
Like Diablo 4 might be a pretty new experience for both of us, but I don't think all of the aspects of them are bad. I like the community aspects, but definitely, some of the other stuff that we talked about we don't like as much. I'm cautiously optimistic like you about. So it's kind of my gaming history in a nutshell. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, that was the World of Warcraft. I never really got into because of the monthly fee or whatever.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to play either.
I'm too cheap for that stuff. Yeah,
yeah, I was young, so my mom wouldn't let me.
That's a crack joke. It wasn't because my parents wouldn't let me. It's because I didn't. I was working at a gas station making like $5 an hour at the time. I'm like, what? That's like a whole day's worth of work to pay for. Like after you buy the game, I'm like, you're out of your mind. Like I'll play.
For me, it was.
I literally remember at the time when that was, it was like, I'm not paying that much. I'll play Diablo 2. And at the time, I was still playing Diablo. Like at the time, I was like, I'll just keep playing Diablo 2. I'm not paying $60 for the game and then the expansion and then $15 a month. Like, get out of here. It's like $120 up front. Crazy. So,
oh, thank you. Yeah, right. Same reason, but it was the conversation went, hey mom, can I play this game? I gotta pay $10 a month. She's like, why can't you just play your games that are free? And I was like, all right, I guess I'll just play those.
Your mom is a smart lady.
She's smart.
Love you, Mrs. Luciano.
Yeah. Mrs. Luciano, that's right. She guided me down, and I never got caught up in that world. So I'm kind of grateful for that. I got to play more Diablo 2 because of it. So
there you go. Hey, it all worked out. All worked out. Yeah. All right, we're creeping around on 9 o'clock here. We got to get the kiddo to bed. So it's been mega fun, Lucky. Love talking to you. Hey, before we go, make sure you let people know where they can find you. And I will put a shout out in at the beginning of the video as well, where they can find you at. Where can they find you at?
Okay, so mostly, Twitch, but I've been focusing more on the YouTube content. So if you guys could, head on over there. I've got some cool stuff on the new season. My assassin build, it's Lucky Luciano 6 is the for YouTube. And then if you want to see live streams, I live stream over on Twitch. Lucky Luciano _6 is the handle there. So if you want to come hang out, that's great. Otherwise, you got to, Phil's a great guy, and he'll keep you plenty entertained. But it's been great, Phil. Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time talking to you. I could talk for another 2 hours, but I'll let you go. I'll put the kiddo to sleep. But I just want to let you know how much I appreciate it.
11. She's got to go to school tomorrow after midwinter break or whatever. No, it's been great talking to you, and everyone. I'm going to put links at the top of the description as well to find him. Great talking to you as well. It's been mega fun, and he's such a smart guy, knows so much about the game. So check out his videos and all that good stuff on YouTube. So thank you so much. I'm eternally grateful for you joining me, everyone out there. Oh yeah, and there's one thing I always ask everybody before they go. You got to give me your best keep slaying.
Keep slaying.
Yeah, let's go, baby.
Do it up, boys. Let's go.
Yeah, all right. Peace out, everybody, and keep slaying. Ooh.